Hi again, and welcome to the second video in this series of PM clips on scope management process. We're at the second activity in the project scope management process, and that is gather requirements. So let's start off with the definition. What is a requirement? A requirement is an objective that must be met. And again, if I may refer back to the first video, it is a specified objective that must be met. It is specified, and it's necessary to specify it because they describe the characteristics of the final deliverable. If it's not written down, if it's not specified, how would we know that it is part of that final deliverable? It should, at the end of the day, lead towards identifying a group of conditions so that the final deliverable or the final output actually is accepted by the client. Now, an effective specification or listing of requirements is one of the most challenging things a project manager will have to do. And if he doesn't do well, if the requirements are inadequately stated, this would guarantee a poor project result. Okay, so for this slide, let me just turn off my video so that you can see more of the details in this particular slide. In the previous slide, we defined what is a requirement. This slide shows us a possible categorization of the different requirements you can think of. So you can use this set of categories as a prompt for you to identify exhaustively, perhaps, all of the requirements needed by a project. When you were talking about requirements in your SAD class and your database classes, you were only given two categories. Functional, these are requirements related to the features and functions of a project, and non-functional, and that is everything else that does not fit in the functional requirements. In this categorization, which is, by the way, not the only potential categorization, there are a lot of other categorizations, but this is just one of them. They blew up or expanded the non-functional requirements. So you now have the non-functional requirements blown up into four additional categories: business, technical, user, and regulatory. I'll explain each and every one of them as we go along. And as we explain each category of requirement, we're going to apply it to a specific project. For this project, we are going to use this example. Imagine that you are a project manager that was tasked to develop and implement a new load revision process for the Loyola schools in time for second semester. Okay. So if this was the project that was given to you and you've already created the project charter, let's now try to identify some of the requirements that you need in order to deliver this project. So let's start off with the first category, functional. Under the functional type of requirements, this describes the characteristics of the final product, service, or system. In this case, think of this as how the final deliverables will look like. This is not similar to your functional requirements in SAD, where you identify each and every feature. This set of requirements identifies in general or in a broad perspective what would be the output of this project. So for this particular example, these are two of the functional requirements. The system should be able to process a load revision request, and the second one is there should be new load revision policies in place due to its online nature. So those are two broad functional requirements. The details will be seen in the user requirements, and we'll get to that later. So that's functional. The second one is non-functional requirements. So these are the restrictions or constraints to be placed on the final product or service and how to build it. Think of these as requirements focused on limiting the potential solutions to the problem. So what are some of the constraints that you can put into this project so that you're able to identify more a limited set of potential solutions? For this example, the non-functional requirements could be the system should be compatible with the Google platform. And with that non-functional requirements, it's not about the features of the system, but rather it is a way to limit potential solution. So if your load revision system that you are thinking of is not compatible with the Google platform, it's already out. Okay? And the second one is the system should be a customized off-the-shelf software. So if you plan to build it from scratch, you're not going to be able to do that because the non-functional requirement says it should be customized. It should be a customized off-the-shelf software. Okay? The third one is business. So these are business requirements. So these are the needs of the sponsoring organization, and you always look at it from a business perspective. Think of this as the business objectives of the project. And for this project, the business objective would be the system should be able to streamline the load revision process from 4 days to 2 days because the business is looking at speed, looking at efficiency because they want to reduce the amount of time for load rev so that students can get to class as quickly as possible. For technical, these are the requirements that dictate how should the system, product, service be designed and implemented. Think of these as the technicalities involved in the project. So for this project, the technicalities would be the system should have APIs to integrate with the current Oracle version X.Y environment, and the system should be accessible on the iOS, Android, Windows, and Mac platforms. So think of all the technicalities involved in building the project. The user requirements are the details of the functional requirements. So think of these as the use cases or the test cases that you will do in order for you to determine whether the system is acceptable. So for this project, some of the user requirements would be the user should be able to enter or cancel a load request. The approvers should be able to approve or reject a request. So it's really the use cases related to the main functional set of requirements. And finally, regulatory requirements, which are the licenses, government restrictions, and laws applicable to the system. So think of these as the laws the output has to abide by. For this load revision process, there will be only one, and that would be the system should have mechanisms in place to abide by the Data Privacy Act. So let's take another example. Remember the NAIA Expressway case from Module 1? Let's use this project and identify what are some of the requirements that we can think of. So just as a review, what is the importance of building the NAIA Expressway? It was created in congruence with the development of the PAGCOR Entertainment City along Manila Bay, primarily because they want tourists and players to have easy access to the terminals and to the hotels and casinos found in PAGCOR Entertainment City. So on the screen, you have the details of the project, the cost of the project, when it started, when it was supposed to end, and general statistics. What is the project all about? Okay, so using the NAIA Expressway case, can you think of example requirements in each and every one of these 6 categories. You can pause this video and think on your own first before listening to the answers, or you can just wait for around 10 seconds before I start enumerating potential examples or answers to this question. Ta-na-na-na, ta-na-na, ta-na-na-na, ta-na-na-na. Okay, that's enough. So let's start off. Functional. What are some of the functional requirements? It's already stated in the slides. It's the creation of a 7.15 kilometer 4-lane expressway providing access to NAIA Terminals 1, 2, 3, linking them to SLEX and Cavitex. You have the 2 exit ramps and 1 toll plaza. So that's the functional requirements. Let's go non-functional. What are some of the examples for non-functional? It should be an elevated expressway, and payment should be contactless. Okay, and if you notice here, given these 2 non-functional requirements, it severely limits the method of executing the project and the type of solution in terms of payment that can be proposed. For the business requirements, we already have that. It's to provide tourists and players easier access to the terminals, and business can also say that we want to decrease travel time from 30 minutes to 10 minutes. For technical, it's not stated there, but we can think of some of them. Like 1, the expressway road should have an asphalt overlay that is at least 2 inches thick, and the payments should be done using RFID. So if you notice with technical, really, it's all about the technicalities of the project. For user, remember, this is the details of the general functional requirements. So in this case, the motorist should be able to pay without stopping because it should be contactless. Second, the motorist should be able to get to their intended destination correctly. And what does that mean? Hindi sila mawawala na magto-turn left, magto-turn right, mali yung pag-turn left nila dahil papunta pa silang NAIA 1, tapos ang bagsak niya ay Manila Bay. Okay? So, this would necessitate putting some sort of road signs also there. Okay? So, this is how requirements would lead to potential solutions. And lastly, regulatory. And this would involve following the policies of the DPWH, the Department of Transportation, and the building codes. So how did you do? I hope that with this second example, it will give you an idea already of how to gather and generate requirements. So in summary, what did we learn in this second video in the series about scope process management? 1, we identified what are requirements, and 2, I gave you sample categories of requirements. It's not exhaustive, but at least it's a prompt for you to be able to generate other requirements. So with that, thank you very much for listening. This is Sir Olpok for PM Clips, and see you in the third of these series.